They thought she was the perfect victim, just a quiet black girl trapped in the dusty book storage room, easy to mock, easy to corner, easy to break. But the moment Chase grabbed her phone, everything flipped. Because the nobody they bullied dialed a number no bully wants to hear, and when that cold voice answered on the other end, calm, controlled, deadly, Chase realized he wasn't the predator. He was the prey. The book storage room of Jefferson High always felt like a forgotten corner of the school, a narrow, dimly lit maze of dusty shelves, half-broken cardboard boxes, and the lingering scent of old paper soaked deep into the concrete walls. Only one weak fluorescent bulb flickered above, buzzing just enough to make the silence feel heavier. It wasn't a place students entered often. It wasn't meant to be comforting. And for Amira Johnson, new girl, 1 week in, trying desperately to stay invisible, it was the perfect place to find the biology textbook her teacher claimed was somewhere in the back. She moved slowly between the shelves, her fingers brushing against worn book spines, her breath steady but cautious. Every step echoed in the small room, mixing with the soft crinkle of pages shifting in the stale air. She hated how loud her heartbeat sounded. Jefferson High wasn't like her old school. Here, every hallway felt like a test, every glance a judgment, and every whisper had her name in it, even when it didn't. She reached up toward the top shelf, stretching as far as she could. Just as her fingertips grazed the dusty book she needed, a voice sliced through the dimness. Well, look who's hiding down here. Amira froze. The voice was unmistakable, cocky, careless, dripping with that signature arrogance the whole school seemed to worship. Chase Nolan, Jefferson High's golden boy, basketball captain, poster child of privilege, and from the very first day she arrived, the person who made her stomach tighten every time he walked past. Amira slowly turned. Chase leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed over his Letterman jacket, a smirk crawling across his face like he'd just uncovered something disgusting. "What's the matter?" he drawled. "They don't have closets at your old school, so you pick storage rooms now?" Amira didn't respond. Keeping quiet had always been safer. But Chase wasn't done. He took a few steps into the room, eyes dragging over her uniform, the perfectly pressed shirt, the neat blue tie, the skirt she'd ironed twice that morning because she wanted to make a good impression. He scoffed. "Trying too hard?" he said. "That little bow? That's cute, real cute. Looks like you dressed straight out of a Goodwill catalog." His eyes narrowed. "And that hair, yeah, that's definitely something." Amira's stomach twisted. He was doing it again, attacking the parts of her she couldn't change, the parts he knew would hurt the most. She swallowed. "I'm just trying to find a textbook." "Oh, I know what you're trying to find," Chase responded, stepping closer until she could smell the cheap mint gum he always chewed. "A place to hide. People like you always need one." She looked toward the door, hope flickering for a second, but that flicker died the moment Chase turned, reached back, and pushed the metal door until it clicked shut. Then, click. The lock slid into place. Amira's breath caught. Chase smiled without warmth, tapping the lock casually with his fingers. "Oops," he said. "Guess it's just you and me now." Her chest tightened. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier, the single flickering bulb dimmer. Chase leaned in slightly, voice low and mocking. "No one's coming down here. No teachers, no students. It's basically a grave for old books." His eyes gleamed. "And for girls who don't know their place." Amira stepped back instinctively, her spine brushing against the cold metal shelf. Her hands trembled. She needed help, any help. Chase noticed the movement. "What? You scared already?" he taunted. "Relax. I'm just getting started." His grin widened, cruel and hungry for a reaction. "Out here, no one's gonna save you, Amira." Her fingers fumbled toward her pocket, toward the one thing she could reach. Her phone. She slid it out slowly, trying not to draw attention. But Chase saw the movement and lunged forward. Amira's trembling hand hit the screen. As Chase rushed toward her, Chase's hand shot forward faster than Amira could react. Her fingers barely brushed the screen before his palm slammed over hers, ripping the phone straight out of her grasp. The small device flew from her hand with a snap, landing in Chase's with a triumphant slap that echoed through the cramped book storage room. Amira gasped, her body tensing as though he had torn away her last lifeline. The dim, yellow glow from the flickering bulb overhead cast long shadows across Chase's face, sharpening every cruel line of his grin. He held the phone high, waving it tauntingly. "What's this?" he mocked. "Trying to call for help? In here?" He let out a laugh low, delighted, almost feral. Before Amira could think, another figure slid into the doorway. Logan, tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing the same smug confidence that Chase carried like a badge. He positioned himself against the door, arms crossed, blocking the exit with deliberate ease. "Well, look at that," Logan chimed in, his voice dripping with faux sweetness. Little Miss Perfect thought she could sneak out a phone call. Then he did it. He copied her voice, her soft, careful tone, her slight accent, her anxious breathing. It was cruel, mocking, and accurate enough to make Amira's cheeks burn with humiliation. Excuse me," Logan said in a squeaky, trembling imitation, pretending to clutch an invisible phone. "I just need a little help, please." Chase snorted. "Man, that is spot on." Amira felt the floor tilt beneath her. 2 boys, 1 door, no escape. Her heartbeat pounded against her ribs like a fist. "Give it back," she whispered, though her voice barely broke the air. "What was that?" Chase cupped his ear mockingly. "Speak louder, sweetheart." She swallowed hard. "Give it back." Chase raised a brow, amused by her sudden spark of defiance. "Oh? She's got a voice now." Logan laughed again, loud, sharp, and echoing off the dusty shelves. Chase turned the phone around in his hand, inspecting the still-lit screen. "Let's see who you were trying to call so badly." Amira's stomach dropped. She remembered the exact moment her thumb hit the screen. Not the home screen. Not contacts. Not a random number. Emergency speed dial. The number labeled only Dad, secure line, because her father, Special Agent Cole, told her before she started at Jefferson High, "If anything feels wrong, even for a second, press this number. It goes straight to me." She prayed Chase wouldn't see it. She prayed the call hadn't gone through. But then, Chase's expression shifted. Confusion, recognition, and something that looked almost like fear flickered behind his eyes. Because right there on the screen, glowing, bold, and undeniable, were the words, "Calling, DAD, secure line." The color drained from Chase's face. "What the?" he muttered. Logan leaned closer. "What's it say?" But before Chase could answer, before Logan could mock again, the phone vibrated sharply in his hand. The call connected. A faint tone clicked through the speaker, followed by silence, deep, heavy, loaded. Then a voice, a man's voice, low, cold, controlled, cutting through the dusty room like a blade. "Amira." A slight pause. "Are you safe?" Chase's shoulders stiffened. Logan stopped laughing. Amira's breath hitched, her pulse leaping. The voice continued, firmer now, edged with authority. "I heard movement. Who's with you?" Chase swallowed hard, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles whitened. He looked at Logan, then at Amira, panic flickering in his eyes for the first time. Logan whispered, "Dude, hang up." But Chase didn't move, couldn't move. Because whoever was on the line wasn't just a dad. He sounded like someone dangerous. Someone who knew exactly what was happening. Someone who was already on his way. The voice on the phone asked again, sharper this time, "Amira, tell me who's in the room with you." The room fell into a suffocating stillness. No one moved. No one breathed. Even the flickering bulb above seemed to pause, holding its dying light in midair as if afraid to make a sound. Amira's breath came in quick, shaky bursts. Logan pressed himself harder against the door, his earlier confidence evaporating, and Chase, still clutching the phone, looked like someone had drained the color straight from his bones. Through the tiny speaker, the voice continued calm, controlled, carrying an authority that didn't need to shout to terrify. "Amira?" the man repeated, Where are you? The name alone shattered Chase's paralysis. He jolted, fumbling with the phone. Shut up, he muttered, trying to swipe the screen, his fingers slipping with sweat. How do I end this call? He tapped the wrong icon. Then another. Then another. Nothing worked. Dude, Logan hissed. Just hit the red button. I am. Chase snarled, but the panic trembling in his voice betrayed him. Then another sound cut through the air, a soft click, followed by the unmistakable tone of a secure call shifting into recording mode. A second presence entered the chaos. Brent, sweaty, disoriented, dragged in by curiosity after seeing Logan slip inside earlier. He froze the moment he saw Chase's expression. What's going on? Brent whispered, but the phone spoke first. A quiet inhale. Then Agent Cole's voice returned sharper now, stripped of all calm. I can hear you breathing, Amira. Amira opened her mouth, but the words tangled in her throat. Chase snarled under his breath. She's fine. No one's doing anything to her? But Agent Cole's next words sliced straight through the lie. Then why? He asked slowly. Do I hear 3 different male voices in the room? Logan's jaw dropped. Brent blinked, horrified. Chase froze mid-sentence, because it was true. The call wasn't normal. Not FaceTime. Not speakerphone. Not even a standard emergency line. It was a federal-grade secure connection, the kind that picked up ambient noise with brutal accuracy. Agent Cole wasn't guessing. He was listening. He had heard the shuffling. He had heard the mocking whispers. He had heard the laughter. Amira's laughter? No. Theirs. A beat of silence stretched out long, threatening, suffocating. Then the voice dropped an octave. Who? Agent Cole demanded. Is touching my daughter. The words hit the air like a gunshot. Logan flinched. Brent stumbled back into a shelf, knocking a stack of dusty novels onto the floor. Chase's fingers tightened around the phone until the plastic casing creaked. I wasn't, he stuttered. We weren't touching her. She was just Chase Nolan. Agent Cole's calmness returned, but it wasn't comforting. It was the calm before an explosion. The sound of his name made Chase's breath hitch. Oh yes, I know who you are. Amira's eyes widened. Logan's face twisted in disbelief. How does he? Logan whispered. Agent Cole continued, his tone chilling. You think the school didn't send me your disciplinary file? You think I didn't see your suspension last year? You think I don't know every complaint buried under boys will be boys because your father made a donation? Chase's mouth fell open. That wasn't just knowledge. That was information he shouldn't have access to. Brent muttered. Holy crap. This guy's FBI or something. Agent Cole spoke again this time, like a man who was already in motion, already moving through hallways, already closing distance. Amira, he said quietly, step away from them. Amira's feet shifted instinctively, scraping lightly against the concrete. Chase's eyes flicked to her fear, battling ego on his face. He tried to straighten his spine, tried to scowl, tried to look like the situation wasn't spiraling out of his control. He failed. Gee, give me a second, Chase stammered, lifting the phone as if preparing to argue with a man he couldn't see. But the voice on the line cut through him again. You have 3 seconds, Agent Cole warned, before I call the school security team directly. Chase's throat bobbed. Logan whispered, Bro, you're losing it. But Chase forced his shoulders back, trying desperately to reclaim dominance he no longer had. He lifted his chin, exhaled shakily, and forced out a weak, relax. We're not scared of you. End quote. But Chase's trembling fingers said otherwise, and Agent Cole was far from done. The dim light in the storage room flickered harder now, as if sensing the rising tension. Shadows stretched long across the concrete floor, twisting over the shelves and the shaken faces of the boys trapped inside with Amira. Dust floated in the stale air, catching the weak yellow glow like drifting ash in a place where something terrible was about to happen. Chase stood rigid, the phone still raised in his trembling hand. Agent Cole's cold voice had sliced through his confidence, one layer at a time, and Chase felt it. His throat tightened, but his ego refused to die quietly. He squared his shoulders, raised his chin, and shouted toward the phone, "Who the hell are you? This is between kids. You don't get to stick your nose in here." His voice cracked. The words echoed around the storage room, but they didn't sound powerful. They sounded desperate. Logan winced. Brent flinched. For a moment, there was silence on the line, the kind of silence that wasn't empty, but calculating, like someone taking their time to decide exactly how to dismantle you. Then Agent Cole spoke. "Who am I?" A pause. His voice dipped lower, colder. "Let's start with who you are." Chase frowned, confusion flickering. Agent Cole continued, speaking with eerie precision. "Chase Nolan, junior year, Jefferson High's basketball captain, number 11 jersey, GPA of 2.3, repeated detention for misconduct, suspension last year for aggressive behavior." Chase's eyes widened. Logan's jaw dropped. Brent swallowed hard. Agent Cole wasn't done. "You prefer to bully students who can't. Fight back, especially girls smaller than you, especially girls who are new." A slow breath. "You think the file your coach hid from the board magically disappeared?" Chase felt the blood drain from his face. How do you know that?" he stammered. Agent Cole ignored the question entirely, pressing forward like a prosecutor tightening a noose. "Your father paid a donation to keep your record clean. $10,000. Not because he believes in you, no." His voice sharpened. "He did it because he was ashamed." Chase's lips parted in horror. He hadn't told a soul about that, not even Logan, not even Brent. It was the secret his family guarded harder than their house keys. Logan whispered, "Bro, he knows everything." Brent took a step back, bumping into a metal shelf. "This guy's not normal." Agent Cole's tone shifted again, calm but lethal. "Chase Nolan, you think I don't know who you are?" The hook landed like a punch to the chest. Amira felt the air thicken. Her father's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It simply filled the room with an undeniable truth. This wasn't a regular father on the phone. This was someone who had access to information, dangerous information, the type no school administrator would ever have. Chase trembled visibly now. His bravado was crumbling fast, slipping through his fingers like sand. "You don't know me!" he shot back weakly. "Stay out of this." But his voice lacked force. Even Logan didn't believe him. Agent Cole replied, "Oh, I know enough. Enough to know you're lying right now. Enough to know you locked a door behind my daughter. Enough to know you're not as tough as you pretend to be. A beat. And enough to know you're scared." Chase stepped backward without realizing it. One slow, shaky step. Logan and Brent exchanged a look of pure fear. Because the more Agent Cole spoke, the more it felt like he was in the room with them, watching them, studying them, preparing something none of them wanted to imagine. Chase tried to speak, but his voice cracked again. You think you can just intimidate us?" Agent Cole's response came razor-sharp. "I don't intimidate children, Chase." A pause. "I stop threats." The word threats echoed like a verdict. Chase's knees weakened. His grip on the phone loosened. His eyes darted toward the door, toward Logan, toward Amira, anywhere but the phone. Because for the first time, he truly understood he wasn't in control. Chase took another involuntary step back, while Logan and Brent stared at him, terrified of what Agent Cole would say next. The book storage room had never been this silent, not even at night. The air felt sealed heavy, packed tight like the entire space had been vacuum-locked. The faint hum of the old fluorescent bulb buzzed overhead, crackling like static in a radio. Dust particles drifted lazily through the pale light, suspended as if time itself had stopped to listen. Amira stood pressed against a metal shelf, her breath shallow, her hands trembling. Across from her, Chase, Logan, and Brent formed a crooked line, three boys who moments earlier were laughing, mocking, confident. Now their faces were pale, drawn tight with confusion and fear. Then Agent Cole's voice returned calm, calculated, terrifyingly precise. "Chase," he said, "this call has now switched into recording mode." Chase stiffened. What does that mean?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Agent Cole didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "It means," he replied, "every sound in that room is being documented. Every word, every breath, every threat. Nothing will disappear. Nothing can be denied." Logan's eyes widened. He's kidding, right? He's got to be kidding. But the faint beep coming from the phone told them he wasn't. A small red light blinked on the screen. Recording. Chase's mouth opened and closed like he couldn't find enough air to form words. Brent rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly aware of how loud his breathing sounded. "You can't do that," Chase blurted. "You can't just record us." Agent Cole's answer was immediate. "When my daughter is in danger, I can do whatever is necessary. And right now, Chase, you are creating a situation that must be documented." A thick, tense silence filled the room, but Agent Cole wasn't finished. "Amira," he said gently, "step 2 feet to your right." Amira blinked. "Dad, how do you know where I'm standing?" Logan's head snapped toward her, panic flickering in his eyes. Agent Cole's voice returned, slower this time, deliberate. "Because I'm watching." Brent exhaled sharply. "How? There's no camera in here." Chase whipped around, scanning the dark corners of the room, his shoulders lifting with fear. "This room barely has electricity," he snapped. "There's no camera." But the edge in his voice betrayed the doubt rising in his chest. Agent Cole answered, his tone cold and absolute. "A small pinhole lens is installed behind the top right shelf, motion activated, night vision capable." 3 heads jerked toward the corner simultaneously. They couldn't see it. But that was the point. Chase's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "You're lying," he said, voice cracking. "Why would the school put a camera in here?" Agent Cole didn't hesitate. "They didn't. I did." Every breath in the room stopped. Amira's fingers curled around the shelf behind her, shock washing across her face. She'd had no idea, no clue. She'd thought her father was protective, but this was something else entirely. Agent Cole continued, "When my daughter transferred to Jefferson High, I asked the school administration to place a security measure in the rooms she walks through alone. After her first week, this storage room was added to that list." Logan muttered under his breath, "Oh my God. We're screwed." Brent stepped back so far he bumped into a stack of textbooks and nearly toppled them over. Chase shook his head violently. "No, no, no, this is insane. You're bluffing." But the phone vibrated again, and a soft, static sound chimed through the speaker. Agent Cole's next words were delivered with chilling clarity. "I see you, Chase, every inch of you. I see the way you grabbed her phone. I see how you locked that door. I see Logan blocking the exit. And I see Brent laughing. A long pause. A deadly one. Then, I'm watching you right now." Logan's breath hitched. Brent's knees buckled. And Chase? He looked like someone had kicked the ground out from beneath him. "You're watching us?" Chase whispered. "Yes," Agent Cole replied. "And the recording has already been backed up." The phone beeped again. Backup complete. The sound was sharp, final, inescapable. Chase's jaw clenched. His pride fought to stay alive, but fear was suffocating him from the inside. He turned to Logan and Brent, eyes wide, the truth sinking in. They weren't in control anymore. The 3 boys tried to stand tall, but fear had already begun hollowing them out from within. A loud crash shattered the suffocating silence. One of the metal bookshelves, already leaning from years of neglect, tilted dangerously as Brent stumbled backward into it. The entire unit wobbled, groaned, and then collapsed against the wall with a thunderous metallic clang. A cloud of dust exploded into the air, filling the cramped room with the choking smell of rust and old paper. Papers fluttered down like falling ash. Books thudded to the concrete floor. The flickering bulb overhead sputtered violently, casting frantic shadows that danced over the chaos. Logan coughed, waving dust from his face. Brent flattened himself against the wall, his eyes wild and unfocused. And Chase, already trembling from Agent Cole's voice, snapped. Completely. "This is your fault," Chase screamed. pointing a shaking finger at Amira. She started it. She planned this. His voice cracked with panic he could no longer hide. He needed someone to blame. Someone to throw under the bus before the situation consumed him whole. Amira stared at him, chest rising and falling with quick, uneven breaths. Fear still coiled tightly in her gut, but something else flickered behind it now, something sharp, something growing. She swallowed, and for the first time since stepping into Jefferson High, she looked Chase straight in the eyes. "No," she said quietly, her voice trembling but unbroken. He heard everything. Chase froze. Amira stepped forward just half an inch, enough to reclaim a sliver of space that had been stolen from her. "You can lie to the school. You can lie to your coach. You can lie to everyone." Her voice strengthened, "but you can't lie to him. Not now." Chase's jaw tightened. His breath came in sharp bursts. He could feel Logan's fear and Brent's terror radiating off them like heat. He could feel the ground shifting beneath him, and he despised it. "I won't let you ruin my life!" Chase barked. "You think you can just come here and entrap us? Set us up? You, Chase," Logan whispered urgently. "Just give her the phone. Let's get out." "Shut up," Chase roared, spinning on him. "I'm not letting this nobody control my life." "Nobody?" Amira repeated softly. That single word struck deeper than a shout. Chase whipped back toward her face, red, eyes wide, breath ragged. "You think you're special just because your dad picks up the phone?" He spat. "You're nothing here." His voice echoed through the collapsed shelves, bouncing off the walls. Brent muttered, "Bro, just stop." But Chase was spiraling, losing grip on the situation, losing grip on himself. He clutched the phone harder, the muscles in his arm twitching. Sweat dripped down his temple. His eyes darted between Amira and the door like a cornered animal searching for a way out. Then, something snapped. He lunged, not to run, not to escape, but straight toward Amira, arm raised. Phone aimed at her like a weapon he intended to wield through sheer force. He was going to grab her, shove her, do something reckless, anything to take back control. Amira flinched, her hands coming up instinctively. But before Chase could reach her, bang! The storage room door exploded open, slamming against the wall with enough force to rattle the shelves still standing. A flood of bright white hallway light surged into the room, so blinding that Amira shielded her eyes. The violent light carved the silhouette of a man into a stark, dark outline, broad shoulders, tall frame, posture radiating a terrifying calm. The kind of calm before a storm. Logan's gasp cracked through the air. Brent's knees buckled, and Chase staggered backward, his facade collapsing like the shelf behind him. The silhouette stepped inside, the light framing him like a warning. Amira's breath caught as the man's figure sharpened, because she knew that posture. She knew that presence. The doorway blazed with blinding white light as the storage room door hung open, trembling from the force that had slammed it against the wall. Dust floated through the sudden brightness like shaken snow. The shadows in the room shrank instantly, pulled backward and away from the towering silhouette now filling the entrance. Agent Cole stepped inside. He didn't storm in. He didn't shout. He simply entered with the quiet, controlled presence of a man who had walked into far more dangerous rooms than this. And somehow, that silence was so much worse than rage. The breath in Chase's lungs turned to ice. Logan stiffened like a statue. Brent pressed himself into the wall, as if hoping the concrete would swallow him whole. Amira's heart pounded, but her chest loosened just a little as she recognized the unmistakable posture. Shoulders squared, step measured, jaw set in a line of cold authority. "Dad," she whispered, barely a breath. Agent Cole's eyes swept the room once, taking everything in. The fallen shelf, the dust cloud, the locked door, Chase, clutching the phone like a weapon. Amira pressed against the wall with fear still glistening in her eyes. He didn't look angry. He looked calculating, and that expression alone made the boys flinch. Chase tried to speak first, his voice cracking with panic disguised as bravado. "We didn't do anything." She misunderstood. Agent Cole didn't respond to him. He didn't even spare him a glance. Instead, he addressed Amira in a voice so calm it cut through the chaos like a blade. "Are you hurt?" Amira shook her head. "No," a brief nod. Then, Agent Cole finally turned toward Chase. His stare was direct, unbroken, and so intensely steady that Chase's knees nearly gave out. There was no yelling, no threats, no raised voice, just an unblinking gaze that pinned him in place like an insect caught under glass. "Put the phone on the ground," Agent Cole said. The words were soft. Too soft. Chase swallowed. I wasn't. Now. Chase's fingers trembled violently. The phone nearly slipped from his grip before he slowly crouched and set it on the floor. His breathing hitched as Agent Cole took one step forward. "Back away from my daughter," he said. Again, calm, measured. But the room felt 10 degrees colder. Logan edged away without being told, bumping into a shelf as he scrambled aside. Brent moved next, hands raised, eyes wide with guilt and fear. But Chase remained frozen. Agent Cole's gaze stayed locked on him. "Move!" he repeated, each syllable razor-sharp. Chase took a shaky step back, then another. Amira watched as her father's silent authority dismantled Chase more effectively than shouting ever could. Agent Cole stepped fully into the room now, the overhead light casting long shadows across his frame. He didn't touch Chase, didn't raise a hand, but the way he stood tall, controlled, ready, felt like a wall the boys couldn't climb. Then he spoke again, this time with the steel of a man accustomed to obedience. "I'm going to give you a choice, Chase Nolan." Chase stiffened. Agent Cole leaned forward slightly, voice still low but laced with a threat that felt too real to ignore. "You have 3 seconds to decide," he said. "Do you want to be arrested right now?" A pause so sharp it felt like the air itself cut open. "Or in 5 minutes?" Logan's mouth fell open. Brent whispered, "Oh my God." "And Chase?" He looked like someone had ripped the floor out from beneath him. He stammered, I didn't do anything to her. I swear. She's lying." Agent Cole's eyes narrowed a fraction. "That is not what the recording shows." Chase's breath hitched loud, terrified. His hands shook uncontrollably now, but still desperately he tried to hold on to the lie forming on his tongue. The disciplinary office of Jefferson High was nothing like the dim, dusty book storage room. It was bright, blindingly bright. White fluorescent panels buzzed overhead, washing every corner in a cold, unforgiving glare. The walls were lined with posters about respect, accountability, and zero tolerance, though most were curling at the edges or pinned over older warnings. A bulletin board near the filing cabinet overflowed with pink detention slips and yellow misconduct notices. It felt like a room built to expose lies. And today, it did just that. Amira sat in the first chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Agent Cole stood beside her, posture straight, expression unreadable, an immovable wall of composure. Across from them sat Chase, Logan, and Brent. The 3 boys looked nothing like the swaggering bullies from earlier. Their shoulders were hunched, their heads low, their hands fidgeting in their laps. The vice principal, Miss Hartwell, a tall woman with sharp glasses and sharper ethics, sat behind the desk, flipping through forms with stiff fingers. She cleared her throat. "So," she began, "we've received conflicting reports about what happened in the book storage room. Before I speak, I need to understand." Agent Cole lifted a hand gently. "I can clarify everything," he said. His voice was calm, respectful, but carried the weight of someone accustomed to being listened to. Chase tensed. Logan stiffened. Brent swallowed loudly. Miss Hartwell folded her arms. "And who exactly are you again?" Agent Cole reached into his jacket pocket and slid an ID across the desk. The badge gleamed under the harsh light's federal insignia unmistakable. Her eyes widened. "Oh." Without giving her time to ask more, Agent Cole tapped the phone on her desk. "First," he said, "the audio." He pressed play. The room filled with the chilling echoes from earlier. Chase laughing, Logan mocking Amira's voice, Brent snickering in the background. The metallic clink of the door locking. Chase saying, "Relax, no one's coming." The boys' faces went sheet white. "Miss," Hartwell stared at the phone, horrified. This is only part of it," Agent Cole said. He reached into his jacket again and pulled out a small black USB drive. "Second," he continued, "video." The vice principal plugged it into her computer. After a few seconds, the screen lit up with grainy but clear footage from the hidden camera. Amira entering the room alone. Chase following her. Chase closing the door. Chase turning the lock. Logan stepping in front of the exit. Brent leaning against the shelf, laughing. And finally, Chase grabbing Amira's phone. Miss Hartwell's jaw dropped. "This," she paused, speechless. "This is irrefutable." Chase's panic fractured into full-blown disbelief. "No," he shouted, leaping half out of his seat. "No way. This is fake. This is edited. Camera, what camera? Where was a camera?" He turned to Logan and Brent, as if begging for support. But they sat frozen, fear hollowing them out. Chase slammed his fist on the desk. "Where did this come from? Miss—" Hartwell recoiled slightly at the outburst. But Agent Cole didn't flinch. He simply stepped forward, placing both hands on the desk, leaning close enough that Chase had no choice but to meet his eyes. "I told you," Agent Cole said evenly. "There's a security camera in that room." Chase shook his head violently. "No. There's no camera there, can't be." Agent Cole's gaze hardened, not angry, just unshakably firm. "You're right," he corrected. "The school didn't install one." Chase blinked confusion, twisting into dread. Miss Hartwell looked up sharply. "Wait. Then who?" Agent Cole straightened his posture. "I did." The room fell completely silent. Logan's mouth dropped open. Brent covered his face with both hands. Chase stumbled backward, the chair legs screeching against the tile floor. You put it there," he choked out. Agent Cole nodded once. "I placed it to protect my daughter." And today, his eyes bore into Chase's soul. "It recorded exactly what I needed." Chase's breath fractured as reality crashed down, but the consequences were only beginning. The parent conference room at Jefferson High felt less like a meeting space and more like a courtroom. Long rectangular table, hard plastic chairs arranged in stiff rows, a clock ticking too loudly on the wall, and an unmistakable heaviness hanging over the air, thick, suffocating, like judgment itself had pulled up a chair. The fluorescent lights hummed with an almost mocking indifference as everyone filed in. Chase sat rigid in his seat, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles had turned white. His mother sat beside him, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed from crying even before the meeting began. Across the table were the parents of Logan and Brent, equally anxious, whispering frantically to their boys. Agent Cole stood at the far end of the room, silent, still, unreadable, while the principal took his place at the head of the table, his expression carved from stone. No one wanted to speak first. Finally, the principal cleared his throat. "We are here to address a very serious incident," he said, voice steady. "We have audio and video evidence of harassment, confinement, and attempted intimidation of another student. This is a violation of school policy and frankly basic human decency." Chase's mother covered her mouth with a shaking hand. I can't believe this," she whispered. "Chase, tell me this isn't true." Chase stared straight ahead, jaw trembling. He opened his mouth, closed it again. The words refused to come. Agent Cole slid a printed transcript across the table. The harsh black letters seemed to glow under the bright lights. The moment Chase's mother saw her son's name in the transcript paired with lines of him mocking, threatening, locking doors, her shoulders collapsed. She broke into tears, sobbing openly. "How could you do this?" she choked. "How could you treat someone like that?" Chase, look at me!" Chase snapped. "I didn't mean to, okay?" he yelled, slamming his fists on the table. "She overreacted. I didn't touch her. Everyone's acting like I'm some kind of monster." "Chase!" his mother cried through tears. "Stop shouting, this isn't helping." But he wasn't listening. His breathing grew uneven. His face twisted between panic and rage. Logan muttered under his breath, "Dude's losing it." Brent shot him a glare. "Well, maybe if you didn't block the door." Oh, shut up, Logan snapped. You pushed the shelf. You're the reason the camera got such a clear shot. That wasn't my fault, Brent shouted. You were the one mocking her voice. Oh yeah. And who laughed the loudest? Logan fired back. Their argument erupted like a grenade, ricocheting around the room. Parents yelled for them to stop. The principal slammed his hand on the table. Agent Cole watched with icy calm. Chase stared at the chaos unraveling around him. Everyone pointing fingers. Everyone trying to survive the fallout. Everyone turning on each other. He sagged back into his chair, defeated, frightened, broken. The principal raised a hand, commanding silence. Enough. His voice thundered through the room. We have heard the evidence. We've seen the footage. The decision is final. He turned toward Chase, his expression grave. Chase Nolan, you are suspended immediately. Effective today. The words hit the room like a hammer. Chase stopped breathing. His mother sobbed, harder. His father, sitting silent in the back, closed his eyes in exhaustion and shame. Chase whispered, No, no, please, no, I can't. This will ruin everything I have basketball. I have enough, the principal repeated firmly. Logan's mother grabbed her son's arm. This is all falling apart. Brent's father leaned forward, voice trembling. What happens now? As the principal gathered his papers, Brent's voice rose in a shaky whisper that filled the entire silent room. So, what about us? What happens to us? He looked from the principal, to Agent Cole, to Amira, his face pale as chalk. And when the consequences finally came for Logan and Brent, their world shook just as violently. The hallway outside the administration office buzzed like a hive disturbed. Dozens of students crowded around the bulletin board, phones raised, voices overlapping as they tried to process the newest disciplinary announcement posted in bold red letters. The paper, stamped with the school seal, fluttered slightly from the air vents overhead, but the words were unmoving, undeniable. Suspension notice, immediate action. Students involved. Chase Nolan, Logan Price, Brent Ward. Every student who passed by stopped to read it. Some gasped, some whispered, some smirked, satisfied, and all of them turned their eyes toward the three boys, standing stiffly by the lockers, trying and failing to look unaffected. Chase looked hollow, like something inside him had been scooped out and replaced with dread. His hands shook as he shoved them into his pockets, avoiding every pair of eyes that landed on him. Logan stood beside him with a clenched jaw, as if chewing the inside of his cheek to stay calm. Brent hovered awkwardly at the edge, shifting from foot to foot, pale and sweating. Amira approached from the opposite end of the hallway, clutching her books tight to her chest. Conversations dropped half a pitch as she passed, not out of fear but out of shock. The entire school had seen the video. At yesterday's full assembly, the administration had played the footage muted, with captions during a mandatory anti-bullying presentation. Everyone saw Chase lock the door. Everyone heard Logan mock her voice. Everyone saw Brent laughing in the back. The humiliation that Amira had endured in silence was now exposed under the brightest possible spotlight. Whispers followed her like shadows. That's the girl from the video. She's the one Chase locked in the room. I can't believe they did that. Her dad's some kind of agent, right? But she kept walking, chin steady even though her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. Behind her, the hallway's attention shifted sharply. Logan's teammates approached, but not with sympathy. Their captain, Mark, shoved Logan backward with a single, furious palm. "You're off the team," Mark spat. "Coach already told us, don't show up to practice. Ever." Logan's face fell apart in real time. "My scholarship," he choked. "Gone." Another player snapped. "Coach said we don't tolerate cowards who corner girls." Brent stepped forward, trying to defend himself, but Mark cut him off with a glare. "And you too, Ward. You're done." Brent stumbled backward, hitting the lockers with a soft metallic thud. Then the crowd's attention turned to Chase. Someone muttered loudly enough for half the hallway to hear. "Choke on that suspension, Nolan." Another added, "Chasing clout got you chased out, huh?" But the line that cut deepest came from a freshman who whispered it with a mixture of fear and awe. Messing with a federal agent's daughter was the biggest mistake of his life. Chase's head snapped up. His eyes locked on Amira, accusatory, bitter, drowning. But she didn't look away. Not this time, because the truth was finally out in the open, and he wasn't the victim here. A school security officer approached Chase and handed him a final notice. "Mr. Nolan," he said firmly, "you are officially under review by a juvenile officer. Failing to comply will result in further legal action." The hallway fell silent. Chase's shoulders collapsed. He wasn't untouchable anymore. Making a fool of yourself by messing with a federal agent's daughter is the biggest mistake of your life. The words, whispered behind him, felt like a verdict. Amira turned away and headed toward the exit. The school day was over. But inside, she felt anything but relieved, because despite the justice delivered, something in her chest remained unsettled, unresolved, and painfully heavy. Rain tapped softly against the windshield, forming tiny rivers that streaked down the glass in trembling lines. The world outside Agent Cole's car was muted gray streets, wet sidewalks, headlights blurred into soft halos. But inside the vehicle, the silence was heavier than the storm. Amira sat in the passenger seat, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Her hands were balled tightly in her lap, nails digging into her palms. Agent Cole sat beside her, still as stone, watching her with a patience that came from years of reading fear on people's faces, even when they tried to hide it. He didn't push her. He didn't ask questions. He simply waited. Finally, Amira inhaled shakily. "Dad," her voice was thin, barely a whisper. "I didn't tell you everything." Agent Cole's eyes softened. "Take your time." Amira swallowed hard. The words stuck behind weeks of silence. "I wasn't just scared today," she said. "I've been scared since the moment I walked into that school." Her breath shook. "I thought it would be better. I thought maybe people wouldn't look at me like I didn't belong." She wiped her cheek quickly, embarrassed as the first tears slipped out. "But they did. Every day. Every hallway. And I didn't know how to tell you without disappointing you." Agent Cole leaned slightly toward her. "You could never disappoint me." She shook her head vehemently. "I felt weak. I felt stupid. I felt alone." Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to be the girl who gets bullied. I didn't want to be the girl who needs saving." Agent Cole's jaw tightened for the first time, not with anger at her, but with the pain of a father who wished he could protect his child from the world, even when he wasn't there to see it. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Amira blinked. "Why are you apologizing?" "Because I thought I prepared you for everything," he replied. "But I didn't prepare you for being hurt." He exhaled slowly. "If I have to leave my assignment, my unit, my career just to make sure you walk into that building safely, I'll do it." No hesitation. Amira turned sharply toward him, shocked. "Dad, you can't just leave your job for me. If that job costs me your peace, your safety, your happiness, then yes, I can." His tone was steady, absolute. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Amira stared at the dashboard as another tear slid silently down her cheek, then another, and another. Agent Cole didn't reach for her immediately. He knew her well enough to know she needed a moment to let herself break before she could rebuild. When she finally spoke, her voice was small but filled with something new. Not fear, not shame. Resolve. "Dad." She wiped her face, inhaling deeply. "I don't want to run anymore." Agent Cole turned fully toward her now, eyes warm, steady. Amira lifted her chin. "I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. I want to go back tomorrow. I want to finish this year without looking over my shoulder." Her hands unclenched. "I want to face it. All of it." For the first time that night, a faint smile tugged at Agent Cole's mouth. "I'll be with you," he said. Every step. The rain eased outside, softening into a gentle drizzle as if the storm had heard her decision and finally taken its leave. And the next morning, when Amira walked into Jefferson High again, everything felt different. The morning light spilled gently across the campus of Jefferson High, stretching long shadows over the lawn and sidewalks, still damp from last night's rain. Students streamed toward the entrance in clusters, laughing, talking, pushing, shoving, just like any other day. Yet, as Amira walked through the front gate, everything felt different. Heads turned. Not with suspicion, not with mockery, not with the sharp, unkind curiosity she had felt during her first week. This time, they looked at her with something else. Respect, caution, a kind of stunned admiration. Amira clutched her backpack strapped tightly, nerves dancing in her stomach. She didn't crave attention, not the good kind nor the bad. But today, the atmosphere pressed against her like a warm but unfamiliar blanket. She stepped into the main hallway, and a hush rippled outward like a wave. The same hallway where whispers used to trail behind her. The same hallway where students once stared at her like she was an outsider. The same hallway where Chase Nolan had strutted like he owned the building. Now, the whispers had changed. That's her, the girl who stood up to Chase. She didn't back down. Did you see the video? She kept her cool the whole time. Amira kept walking, eyes forward, breathing steady. A group of sophomore girls stood near the lockers. When they saw her, they froze, then hurried toward her hesitantly. The tallest girl spoke first, voice wavering. Amira, hey, we just wanted to say we're sorry. Amira blinked. For what? The girl exchanged glances with her friends before admitting, for not doing anything. We saw how Chase treated you your first few days. We should have said something, but we didn't. Another girl stepped forward. We were scared. Chase was popular, and we didn't want to get involved. A third girl bit her lip nervously. But after seeing everything that happened, the video, the way you stood up, we want you to know we're on your side. One of them gave a small, sincere smile. You're stronger than we thought. The words hit deeper than they probably intended. Not because they were flattering, but because they were true. Amira had been stronger than she believed, too. Thank you, she said softly. The girls nodded, relief washing over them before they dispersed. As Amira continued down the hall, teachers nodded at her with quiet respect. Mr. Hall, her English teacher, paused as he passed and murmured, "Glad you're back, Amira. Proud of you." Even students who barely knew her offered supportive glances. It felt surreal. She reached her first class. When she entered, the room fell silent for a moment, then slowly. A few students gave small nods of acknowledgement. Even those who usually kept to themselves seemed to shift forward in their seats, as though drawn in by the quiet gravity she carried now. Amira took her seat by the window. For the first time since arriving at Jefferson High, she felt like she wasn't sitting alone. After class, she walked toward the extracurricular wing of the school. Her nerves returned tightening in her chest because, despite everything, she knew the day wasn't done. Something else was waiting for her, something she hadn't prepared for. She stopped in front of the clubroom door. A faint whisper of unease crawled up her spine, because inside that room, an unexpected message was waiting, one that would change everything again. The extracurricular center at Jefferson High was usually one of the liveliest spots on campus. Students huddled around project tables, teachers preparing club materials, bright neon lights buzzing overhead with a persistent hum. Today, however, the room felt strangely still. Amira stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the artificial glow reflecting off the polished wooden tables. A few students murmured quietly in the corner, but the energy was low, cautious, almost watchful. Miss Ramirez, the club advisor, noticed Amira entering and offered a warm but slightly strained smile. "Amira," she greeted gently, "I'm glad to see you back. We heard about everything." Amira nodded politely. "Thank you. I'm okay." "Well, Miss," Ramirez said, clearing her throat, "there's something for you. It was left on the clubroom desk this morning. No name." She handed Amira a small white envelope, plain, unmarked, sealed with a thin strip of tape. Amira's stomach tightened. "Who left it?" she asked. Miss Ramirez shook her head. "No one saw. It wasn't here at closing yesterday. I thought it might be from a friend or a teacher offering support." But I'm not sure anymore. Amira slid her finger under the seal and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No decoration, no signature. Just one short sentence written in sharp, slanted handwriting. "They're not done with you." Her pulse froze. The handwriting was unfamiliar, cleaner than Chase's messy scrawl, sharper than Logan's sloppy loops, and nothing like Brent's blocky letters. This wasn't from any of them. A chill ran up her spine. Miss Ramirez stepped closer. "Is everything all right?" Amira shook her head slowly, reading the line again and again until the words blurred. "No," she whispered. "This isn't from the boys." Miss Ramirez frowned. "Then who?" Amira's mind raced. Someone else had been watching. Someone who knew what had happened in the storage room. Someone who had chosen this moment after the suspension, after the assembly, after Chase's downfall to send a message. A warning, or a threat. She couldn't tell. Her hands trembled as she folded the letter back into the envelope. "Amira, Miss," Ramirez said softly, concern deepening in her voice, "if this is making you feel unsafe, I'm fine," Amira said quickly, though her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "I just need to show this to someone." "Your dad?" Miss Ramirez guessed. Amira nodded. The advisor gave a reassuring squeeze to Amira's shoulder. "You're not alone. Don't forget that." Amira offered a grateful smile, though fear still swirled beneath her calm exterior. She stepped out into the hallway, the neon lights buzzing behind her like static in a storm. She clutched the envelope close. The school felt different, now not hostile, but watchful. Eyes followed her not with cruelty, but with an uneasy curiosity, as though they sensed something brewing beneath the surface. As she headed toward the front entrance, 100 possibilities raced through her mind. A student she didn't know? A bystander who had been too afraid to intervene? Someone who resented the fallout from the video? Or someone with a deeper grudge against Chase, against the school, or against her father? Whoever it was, they weren't finished. And that night, when she brought the letter home and placed it in her father's hands, everything became even more alarming. The house was quiet that night, too quiet, the kind of silence that felt thick, heavy, like the walls themselves were listening. The kitchen was dim except for the soft golden pool of light over the table, where Amira sat with her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Rain tapped against the window, echoing faintly through the room. Agent Cole stood at the counter, the anonymous letter flattened under his palm. He didn't speak at first. He simply studied it, the paper, the ink, the sharp angles of each letter with the intense concentration of someone who had read far more threatening messages in his lifetime. Amira watched him anxiously. "Dad, what do you think?" she asked finally. Agent Cole didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up the letter, brought it closer to the light, and traced one finger slowly across the handwritten line. "They're not done with you." His brow tightened. "That handwriting," he murmured, "I've seen it before." Amira straightened. "Where?" Cole set the paper down and reached for his work bag. He pulled out a thin folder, the kind he kept notes in when he was observing school environments or reading administrative files. He flipped through it until he found a page covered in student-written complaint forms from months prior. "Here," he said, tapping one sheet. Amira leaned closer. On it was a short note written in the same sharp, slanted strokes. "Who wrote that?" she whispered. "Olivia Sutton," Agent Cole replied. The name hit Amira like a quiet shock. Olivia, the quiet junior with the dark hoodie and headphones, who always sat alone in the cafeteria. Amira remembered her vaguely, pale, withdrawn, always avoiding eye contact. Rumors said she'd been bullied last year but never spoke up. "Why would she leave me a warning?" Amira asked. Agent Cole gave her a long, steady look. "She wasn't warning you to help you," he said. "She wants something else." Amira's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" He slid the two papers side by side, the anonymous letter and Olivia's old complaint form. The handwriting was identical. "She didn't warn you because she's worried," he continued. "She warned you because she's angry. Angry at the boys. Angry at the school. Angry at the world that watched her suffer." Amira swallowed. "So, She wants me to be her voice? No, Agent Cole corrected quietly. She wants you to be her weapon. The words struck cold. Agent Cole leaned back in his chair, fingers pressed together. She knows Chase is suspended. She knows Logan and Brent lost everything. She knows the school is terrified of you now. Olivia isn't trying to protect you, Amira. She's trying to push you, to use you, to make you continue something she started long ago but never had the courage or power to finish. Amira stared down at the letter in her hands, feeling its weight shift into something darker. A victim wanting revenge. A shadow wanting a louder shadow. A girl who had been broken wanting someone else to break things back. One victim, Agent Cole said softly, is trying to turn another victim into a weapon. Amira felt a slow, steady determination growing inside her, not anger, but clarity. I need to talk to her, she said. Agent Cole looked up sharply. Amira. No. Amira insisted gently. I need to hear it from her. I need to know what she wants. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the window in a steady rhythm like a countdown beginning. Agent Cole exhaled, reluctantly nodding. Then be careful, he warned, because Olivia Sutton isn't finished, and neither is whoever she's trying to fight. And the next day at school, Amira walked toward the courtyard, ready to face the girl who had dragged her into a battle she never asked for. The storm had passed by afternoon, leaving the back courtyard of Jefferson High washed clean. Rain still clung to the edges of the benches, glistening like scattered shards of glass under the soft, golden light. The air smelled of wet grass and earth fresh, fragile, almost peaceful. Amira walked slowly toward the far end of the courtyard, where a tall oak tree stretched its branches like sheltering arms. Beneath it, slouched against the trunk with her hood half covering her face, was Olivia Sutton. Olivia didn't look up until Amira was only a few steps away. You came, Olivia muttered, tucking a strand of damp hair behind her ear. Her voice carried no excitement, only a quiet certainty, like she had known Amira would show up regardless of what anyone said. I came because I needed answers, Amira replied, settling onto the bench beside the tree. You left that letter for me, Olivia gave a soft, humorless laugh. Took you long enough to figure it out. Amira studied her carefully. Olivia looked exhausted, not just tired, but worn, as if years of fear and silence had hollowed her out. A girl who had swallowed too many words, too many insults, too many days spent hiding from the world. Why did you write it? Amira asked gently. What did you want from me? Olivia finally met her eyes. What everyone wants, she said. Justice, payback. Someone to make them feel what they made us feel. Her voice sharpened. You already did what no one else could. You exposed them. You ruined them. People listen to you now. They fear you. Olivia leaned forward, eyes burning. You could take down every bully in this school if you wanted to. Amira's breath hitched. Is that why you warned me? She asked. Because you wanted me to finish something for you? Olivia didn't hesitate. Yes. Amira felt those 3 letters settle deep inside her chest, heavy, cold, and wrong. Olivia, I'm sorry for what you went through. I'm sorry no one helped you. I'm sorry the school failed you. Her voice trembled, but her words were steady. But I'm not your revenge. Olivia's jaw tightened. Why not? You have power now. Real power. Amira shook her head. Revenge isn't power, she said softly. It's just pain wearing a mask. Olivia scoffed. Easy for you to say. You won. They paid. You walked out clean. Amira's eyes stung not with tears, but with truth. I didn't win, she whispered. I survived. There's a difference. Wind rustled through the leaves above them, sending droplets of rain cascading to the ground like tiny falling stars. Amira continued, If I start hurting people back, if I become like them, then everything I went through means nothing. She inhaled slowly. I'm not here to burn the school down. I'm here to stand in it without being scared. For the first time, Olivia's expression cracked. Not in anger, in ache. You're stronger than me, she said quietly. Amira shook her head again. No, I'm just done letting fear decide who I am. She stood, brushing rainwater from her jeans. Olivia stayed seated, staring at the ground, shoulders shaking slightly, not with anger, but with the first tremors of understanding. Amira took one step back, then another, pausing only long enough to look Olivia in the eye one last time. Strength isn't revenge, she said softly. Strength is the courage to stand your ground, without becoming what hurt you. And with that, she turned toward the fading sunlight, the courtyard bathed in gentle gold. A day ending, a chapter closing, a new one waiting quietly ahead. And just like that, the bullies who thought they owned the school realized they'd messed with the wrong girl on the wrong day, because the moment that call connected, their power crumbled faster than the lies they tried to hide behind. Amira didn't just survive, she exposed every shadow they used to control others. And the look on Chase's face when the truth hit him? Priceless. But now I want to hear from you. What part of this story shocked you the most? If this video hit you the way it hit me, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter.